This is your host, Jack McCaig. Welcome back. We're going to go through an episode about the reset and history, and I'm going to explain some things. But first, check me out at Liberty Aid here and the information you need, and Jack McCaig. Okay. Great news now, we don't email you any products anymore. We email you an ID, so everything's always up to date online, always. You just sign in with your ID, it's always there, you can't lose it. Great news, right? Took us many years to get to this level of accuracy and availability for everyone. So it takes a lot of professionals to make this happen and keep this information up because, it's the only way to really be secure and safe and out of the jurisdiction of government and so on. So check us out, our products and the mentoring. We train you how to do this. Stand by it. My name's up on it. I got the proof, videos, all that. Okay. So let's go through what we're going to go through today. I saw this YouTube video today, and it just rolled across my screen, and I'm constantly watching history information and looking for patterns, and I've been doing it for a while since I brought this reset up and the mud flood and even for longer before that on my own studies. So I thought I'd use this story of trains in Puerto Rico to show you how all history stories have the similar pattern in them. It proves they're all fake. No history could possibly happen the way it's said anywhere, such as in Puerto Rico, in America, in Russia, just everywhere. Okay, none of it makes the least little bit amount of sense at all. Okay, we can just go through this tiny little example here in Puerto Rico, trains in Puerto Rico, to show that really, if you look into any train history, it's all fake and absolutely impossible. Okay, but this is just especially so. I was just like, see it like, this is absurd, and when a story is so obviously a lie, you're like, but I noticed the pattern of the lie is kind of always the same. And so let's go through the pattern within the story so you can do your own history research and be like, oh, I see this pattern, okay. And it'll all play out like that. All right. Okay, great. So supposedly, I don't really know much Spanish or anything, obviously, but I can see in this little thing here that supposedly in 1886 the government of Spain authorizes, trains, right, or whatever. The island is going to get some trains, right, because this is about trains, and there's some company that's going to do it, right? Okay, that's what Spain decides in 1886. So I was like, well, okay. Does Spain have any train factories or giant ships to move trains to Puerto Rico? That's pretty far, by the way. And when you look into it, okay, so we're just on this, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you're opening thing. All right, okay. So let's we're just up to that, right? So then we're like, okay, let's keep going a little bit, all right? Let's keep going a little bit. Then what happens? Then you got kind of like, sorry, there's a ticket or something, right? But here's this old building here, right here, is supposed to be a train depot, like, 1900-ish or whatever. What? So not only, and here's one. Sorry. Here's one. Like, we tore down. Oh no, that's to say, well, this is like the back or something. Anyway, so in 1925, this thing's still going on. Okay, there's a year, right? So in 1925, they have that huge place with all the trains and stuff, right? That don't make no sense. And then we got this 1912. Here's 1912. So they had that other giant building you just saw, and this thing by 1912. And the whole system. And you'll see, because why would you have one place like this? Like, you have a whole system. This is out in wherever, some Martin P. I don't know. That's Martin Pena Station, I guess. But now we're looking at all these trains and these old pictures. Isn't this glorious? More pictures, trains. This one. And then this one comes up. And you're like, wait a minute. Look at this photo. In 1898, look at these straight walls. They're supposedly these guys with shovels. These three guys with shovels did all this. Between 1868 and 1898. In those 30 years, the Spain said, oh, let's do this thing, right? That's what's up. This. No machinery. And by the way, this stuff is just laying around here. They just look like they're just digging out the stuff around the track. Like, no machinery, no nothing, no, like, this is here. This is a perfect slicer. Where'd they get the tools for this? This is hard to do. This is like impossible with almost any machinery at all, except for the largest machinery on Earth. Maybe could do this. Maybe. A perfect straight channel like this, given the right equipment. But this is on an island. How did the equipment to do this get here? Or what ships? This is 1898. Okay, we're going to look into ships at this time, but basically they had wooden ships now. Okay, their story is they're beginning to be clad. The wooden ships are beginning to be clad in iron, right? And by the way, Spain didn't build any ships and didn't have any shipbuilding capacity, apparently, because they bought their ships elsewhere. We'll go over that. But just look at this. This is impossible. The tracks are already here, and they're completely covered. Like, if you're making new tracks, why would you then recover the tracks with everything? As you're digging, you would complete digging, then you would lay the rail afterwards. This photo makes zero sense. This photo actually proves the whole thing was here. It was here, and they needed a story to say why it's here. So you'll notice this gap always occurs, like everything's here in 1890s, basically. Everything, like they say, oh, we said we were going to build it in the 1880s, and then in the 1890s, basically everything's here. And it's all covered with stuff. But it's a little earlier in some bigger places, like as far as, like they needed a Civil War story to cover it up in the, mainland in America. But it's just the same at the same time period. It just took them a little bit longer to get out here in Puerto Rico and do the fake photos and the whole fake story and stuff. Okay. Let's continue on with this. It's just, see, I'm using this because the pattern exists the same everywhere. Here's station, the rail's already there, it's already dug in. And then this guy's supposed to show up in the 40s who took photos of everything, and everyone and what's going on. And you can see basically that the trains are never updated. Here it is again, an old train station. The rail's already there, not really cleaned up or anything like that. Here's the buildings. It's already there. Everything's already there. How are you going to get all these trains made and on an island? How? There's still all old trains from the original time. Nothing new. Oh, here's look at these. Look at all, like in this, I guess I haven't gone through all of them, but you could look at all the bridges and stuff that were set up then. Oh, and they always have some, fake crash thing going on, usually where they're trying to use the trains first time and messed it up. And then there's some famous somebody that's supposed to back the story or whatnot. Where did these trains come from? Did they build this thing in Puerto Rico? How? With what places? It's absurd. Okay? It's absolutely absurd. These things, they didn't have the equipment to build them in Spain. They couldn't even build ships in Spain. They were buying ships, they say, from other places, you see? And yet, look at these cars. They're like, these are fantastic things. Great fabric, look at these shutters and everything. Like, this is the lamps, this is like totally antediluvian technology. Look at all this stuff, This is amazing buildings, amazing cars, absolutely amazing in every way. All this stuff that they had back then. 1898. There's train stations and train rails. Oh, come on. Come on. Okay, sorry. You haven't seen this other part, so I'm gonna go through this. All right. I was like, it's the Spanish Navy. Let's look up the Spanish Navy, right? Here we go. Let's visit Wikipedia for the Spanish Navy. They got this bunch of stories, right? Blah blah blah. The Navy in decline. Now we're up to where we could do photos, right? Like, we had those photos from Puerto Rico, and it said, "Oh, Spain is making this giant railway. Spain is so rich with wealth, ships, shipping, everything. They're gonna make just a rail line in Puerto Rico because just why not, right? They just must have excess everything. So they've have everything built everywhere in Spain, and all the colonies are finally going to get around to this island, Puerto Rico." Okay, let's see how that story goes. Okay, 1820s loss of the Spanish Empire's over. Okay. U.S. invasion of Cuba supposedly happens in the 1840s and stuff. And then the First War of the Pacific from 1864 to 1871. And then it's just vacant from there. It's just nothing here. There's just this First War of the... And I looked at this First War thing. Click on the button. Here it is. Here are the ships. Here's one of the ships from the big war, right? This is a wooden ship. This is basically... And they didn't have that many ships in this giant war. We can go through them, but that's the one photo they have on Wikipedia. And here are the battles. Here are the ships. All that kind of stuff, right? This is the story they have, right? This is what's going on. Spain has so much extra ships and stuff. But the thing is, it's like, wait a minute. You just had a couple ships. Sorry. And let's go back through this. The names of these ships, right? First War of the Pacific. Then we get up into here. In 1896, I was like, not that Admiral. Armored cruisers. We start with this, 1896. This is like the new technology, right? Armored cruisers. And I was like, okay. This is their, like, supposedly ships of the line. Sails. Oh, wait. First armored cruiser, 1870. Here we are. Supposedly the rise of the cruiser in the 1880s, right? Here we go. Here it is, right here. See, the French are supposedly making these, right? Supposedly. Sails, these weird, just from wooden ships to this, right now, on this 1891. But we're still talking before then, because you got to see from this photo, remember, 1898, they have a old, worn out train system by then. You see, this is an older building, older rails. These locomotives, they've been there for a while. Let's say at least 20 years. At least they're not looking new, right? So in 1868 was the story. Spain said, we're going to build this whole train system in Puerto Rico in 1868. And they must have done it right away, like immediately, built all the trains, all the rails, put up all the bridges, like in a year or something. And because it's worn out. Looks older than 30 years old from the time they said they were even going to start in 1868. Look at this old place. This is not 30 years old. Okay, this is way older. Okay? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's see. We're going to go back to the Spanish Navy because there's some interesting here. So we get into we go from here, right? And they got like fleet of 15 vessels, right? Over there, supposedly. And they move to the 1890s, right? And now they have this giant amount of stuff in 1896. It's always 1896. And then you got this supposed war with all this, fake, with all this stuff that was just, how could they never show the building of any of these ships? I mean, if you have the history of the Navy, and these are photos, okay? Why don't you show building any of this technology? They don't show building of ships. They don't show building of artillery. They don't show building of buildings they're standing in. They don't show building of any of those things anywhere. Go look. Okay? But then supposedly let's go back to why we're doing this, because supposedly they are having all these giant wars and stuff like this, right? And they lost this, they lost the Spanish Empire in the Americas. But in the 1860s, right, almost 1870, they were like, let's totally put everything we got into building a train system in Puerto Rico. What? Okay, so then I was like, this is my Google search, right? The best ship in Spain, right, in 1880. And it's just, see, where are these ships that were going to transport locomotives and train cars and all the rail and basically just all the stuff to make the buildings, all the stuff to service the line, all the, what would you call it? I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank here. All this stuff to keep everything serviced, in service. All the equipment for that and the space for that. Like, because they don't have any buildings in the pictures like, this is where we built the trains. This is photos of us building the trains. They have some dudes standing with shovels in like a perfectly, made line that we saw. Remember? Those guys with the shovels. They are supposed to be, you built this place, right? These guys. 319, right? You did, 320. 32. Okay, 32s is, yeah, all right, that's you. Okay, so none of this story makes any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Like, you have this huge technological jump in 10 years, and during this time when you made all this whole new Navy, by the way, this whole new Navy, you just decided, Spain's not that big. Nothing against Spain or anything, but just, was it all factories edge to edge and everyone worked in factories churning out major industrial items and putting them on ships and sending them all the way around the world and to Puerto Rico is one of the places. We just put up this, train system in Puerto Rico. But every train system is a lie like that in every country. It's like, how did you get these things everywhere in these, smaller countries like this, let alone an island of Puerto Rico? You said in those tall ships, right, with the sails, you sailed over locomotives in that, right, on the heavy seas across the Atlantic, and everything was fine. You didn't lose any, no stories there, nothing. This is absurd. This insults everyone's intelligence. All history you should feel like this insults my intelligence. Just, this is stupid. This can't have happened this way. You see? Oh, thanks for bringing over your locomotive. You know? Oh, that's an older, but that's from the 1700s. But I'm just saying, like, okay, where's the ship that was gonna where's the picture of the ship? I mean, let's pull up one of those. I had it up before. It's absurd. Armored cruisers were after, so only thing we got is this first war in Pacific, and you go over here and you look at the here's a ship. Like, this is their best ship. You see? Like, we don't have anything else. This is what. But you were busy fighting wars with this. And so you got a locomotive. Like, where's the crane? You know, locomotive. It sinks to the ground, you know. Sploosh to the bottom of the ocean. I'll put another train on there and another one. We gotta bring, like, you know, all these locomotives and train cars to Puerto Rico. Fill it up like a container ship. They don't do that back then. Their stories are hilarious. Not even possible. Not even remotely possible. And it's always around the same, you see, trees are not over 150 years old, right? So you go back to this time, basically, you know, in 1890s, basically, and you're like, well, you know, somewhere in the 1860s to 1890s, just like this whole story here, there's just this break. This is pre-mud flood stuff. This is post-mud flood. Antediluvian, right? And this is post-diluvian, right? Before the flood and after the flood. Before the cataclysm that nobody understands how it happened. This is after the cataclysm, when God reset everything and rebuilt railroads on islands and stuff. People can't do that. Your ego is in the way. You think that you could have gone to Puerto Rico for... You think, apparently, that you could have been an emperor in Spain, told everyone what to do. Yeah, we're building Puerto Rico's train lines, and we only got like a year or two to do it, and I want you to bring it over there, set it up, and then don't take care of it and just make it look really old in 20 years. That's the story that's in front of you for everything. It's not just this rail line, do you see? It's the whole story. It's pathetic. Their stories are pathetic. Okay, it's not possible. It's like, you know, you start looking at San Francisco, it's like, San Francisco was built, then rebuilt, all these, they have photos, but it's like, people can't have done that. It's too fast. These timelines don't make sense. The technology jumps too fast. They're just, these ships are one way, and then they're another way. But there aren't any there are photos of the ships, but not of the ships being built. Or the systems that care for the ships. I mean, these ships and the systems and their maintenance and the navies and all this stuff had to be in place. But you got to think about this. The Navy wouldn't be putting in, right? This is the Navy. I'm looking at the Navy for the Spanish Empire. It's in decline. They don't have any ships. They bought some from France. Okay. Obviously. But, you know, the story is they had so much industry and stuff. We're going to build this rail line in Puerto Rico with locomotives and everything. You see, every story has similar timeline. And you can see this weak spot in it from the, you know, up until like the 1890s. Anything before, whatever, 1896 or whatever, it never happened. It just, the things were here, obviously, because they have photos of them. This rail line in Puerto Rico, obviously, it was there. It's here in 1899. Click! Look at them all. How did this get here? It's like, well, how did you even get here? Like, what was the story they were told then? That's what you got to be wondering. Like, what? How did this rail line get here? Like, they've been switching stories over time or something, because this is just absurd. How long have these people been here? Where did they come from? It doesn't make any sense. Where does the stuff you're standing on come from? So, where did you come from? You see, God makes this whole thing, it's like Westworld, that story. You seen that on HBO or whatever, something. It just gets reset. Poop, back in bodies, under the dome of hell, redo every time until you call the name of God and serve Jesus Christ. You just get back in here into this false, illusory thing that makes zero sense. Your ego is blocking you. Your ego is thinking, people built all this stuff. Well, wait a minute. When? How? Where are the photos? It's impossible once you look into the technology of what Spain was then. Spain is supposed to have done this, the country. And yet, they're a empire in such decline, they can't even build a ship, let alone a locomotive. Pathetic. The story is absurd. Okay, and you could apply this to everywhere, every story. It's absurd. And see, trees are 150 years old everywhere, with very little standard deviation, meaning they're all about 150 years old. They're not like, oh, some are 150, some are 130, some are 100. No, they're all like started at once. Except for some high spots and some places where people weren't or something, where God decided not to destroy certain old trees. But really, all across the U.S., all trees are 100, 150 years old, and with a standard deviation of like 10 years. They're all planted at exactly the same time. All the trees in America, pretty much. Everywhere. And really, everywhere about the same time. And the timeline matches. And this stuff all pops up and people are here. Oh, you're here now. With all this stuff that got here with stories that don't make sense. At all. Okay, this is the reality. Okay? The timelines never make sense. The history never makes sense. Every single history, right, is a lie. High story. H-I story. It's not his story or her story. It's high story. You have to be high to believe this absolute, utter, childish nonsense. You have to be a fool to think anything in history is true. You have to be a retarded, mind control, programmed fool. A simple, robotic slave. Okay? If you can't see this, you're not human. Okay? You're thinking you're human, but you're trained to be an animal, a slave, cattle. Okay? That's all you are if you can't see this. You may be in a body that's human, but you decided not to be human. Because you're buying all this bullshit. You got to give it up and go with the truth, okay? The truth. The truth will set you free. Okay, so here's, I just thought I'd go through this today just so you could apply this simple lesson to all history and see all history is fake. Okay. God bless you all. Yes, it's true. You can sell your soul to the devil, but you can sell your soul to Jesus Christ instead and get out of hell, this domed reality. I have the only contract on earth to do so. God bless you all. Praise Jesus.